What's good, you guys? Your boy Ben Mahari here, representing Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Hope y'all having a good weekend thus far. Hope y'all have been staying healthy, staying blessed here in 2023. I know we're going through some hard times, but we'll get through it together. But we got the NBA playoffs coming up, man, and things are starting to get heated up. So I'm gonna start picking up some steam on my video content and getting you all the predictions and everything else in between. But I wanted to particularly talk about the MJ versus Isiah Thomas feud. Yes, it's one of the most longest running bitter feuds in NBA history, and I'm afraid that there's no end in sight. Now, it started to pick up steam yet again when Isiah Thomas appeared on the All the Smoke podcast with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes. Salutes to those two brothers. They've been putting on great episodes, and I think that this is going to be a two-part interview with Isiah Thomas. So stay tuned for part two when Showtime releases it. But during the course of their interview, um, Matt Barnes particularly asked Isiah Thomas about a possibility of a reconciliation with Michael Jordan after Isiah just did a reconciliation interviews with both Magic Johnson and Karl Malone. And he said that he would like for Isiah Thomas and Michael Jordan to do the same thing. In this particular aspect, I don't think that's going to happen. And the reason why is that when Isiah was approached to that question, he pretty much said that, that he never encountered an athlete that basically called him an asshole and said that he hated him publicly. And a lot of those comments came from when Michael Jordan talked about it more exclusively in the Last Dance documentary a couple of years ago. And a lot of people don't seem to understand that this is a rivalry that has been pretty much been ingrained since the 80s when both the Pistons and the Bulls were basically physically fighting with each other for both Eastern Conference supremacy and their places in NBA history. So, pretty much as simple as this, these two guys had been hating each other for a long period of time, just competitively and personally. But people always like to allude to the fact about the Isiah Thomas and the bad boy Detroit Pistons walk off after the Bulls swept them in the Eastern Conference Finals, and how people jumped all over the Detroit Pistons when they did walked off and not shake hands with the Chicago Bulls. Now, look, I'm gonna tell you this straight up. I'm a Bulls fan. I've always enjoyed Michael Jordan. He's my favorite player. But there are some things about Michael Jordan that I did not like and I don't appreciate. And it's just pretty much was low blows. And one of them is in particular, it was between the days off between games 3 and 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals when Michael Jordan came out publicly and said that the Detroit Pistons are undeserving champions and that the bad boys are bad for basketball. Now, when the Pistons heard those comments, it struck them in the heart. It struck the fans in the heart and the entire city of Detroit in the heart. It was pretty much the biggest low blow of low blows. When you're on the verge of losing in a series, there's some sort of bit of respect and admiration that these two teams should have had for one another. And when Jordan said that publicly, it was a low blow of epic proportions. So when the Bulls basically beat them in the Eastern Conference Finals, Lambeer led the walk-off. It was not Isiah Thomas, but Isiah Thomas joined the walk-off in support of his teammates, which obviously he should have done. Although John Sally and Joe Dumars did shake hands with them, which is commendable on their parts. Just want to add that there. But the thing is, people have this perception that Isiah Thomas led the walk off in 1991. It was not true. Bill Lambier led the walk off because the thing was the Bulls and Michael Jordan said some bad comments and derogatory comments to the Detroit Pistons that people like to forget about. And basically, they just gave the middle fingers and said, all right, if that's how you feel about it, we're not going to give you no respect. And that's what they did. Now, do I agree that they should have been bigger than that and just should have shook in their hands? I mean, yeah, you could say. But at the same time, if you were in their position and basically you're getting cheap shot at like that, like, I mean, come on. You would have felt the same way too. And I didn't, I just thought that Michael Jordan should have thought about what he said. But at the same time, the NBA was already getting ready to market Michael Jordan as their big premier superstar in place of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. So everybody knew what the story was heading into that 91 series. But the one thing I was disappointed was is that, Michael Jordan basically called Mike Isiah Thomas an asshole, and he still holds on to bitter feelings to Isiah Thomas to this day. I mean, you think about it. It's been almost 3 or 4 decades since these guys last played against each other. And Isiah Thomas has beaten Jordan 24 out of 19 during their meetings with one another. Plus, for 3 straight seasons, they basically beat the hell out of the Chicago Bulls in the playoffs. So people need to give the respect to where it's due. Now, how did it all started is anyone's guess. Everybody talks about the freeze out or something like that. I have a hard time believing that. Because how could you freeze somebody out on an all-star game? I mean, it just doesn't make any level of sense. And and the other thing too is that Michael Jordan, yes, was a popular figure in Chicago, but he wasn't a homegrown Chicago player like Isiah Thomas was. And to this day, many Chicago athletes revere Isiah Thomas very, very deeply of his influence in Chicago, on the west side of Chicago. So that is out the window. I think it's just more along the lines of this. It was just media driven competitive beef between the two. And what really got cemented was is that when Michael Jordan publicly said that he would not play for the Dream Team if Isiah Thomas was on the team. And there's no denying the fact that Isiah Thomas deserved to be on that Dream Team above John Stockton. No doubt in my mind. And for anyone that said that otherwise would have been ridiculous. The thing is, even if you have a disdain for a player, the key is to win, regardless if you don't like the player or not. And I do believe that if they would have just put their differences aside, they still would have won the gold medal anyway. But it's near here or there. The point here is that Isiah is looking to try to do some sort of reconciliation or have a conversation with Michael publicly. And one thing I will say to that is good luck, because Michael Jordan is the type of person that is petty beyond belief, and he will hold on to grudges until his deathbed. So good luck with that. And keep in mind, during Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame induction speech, he basically took the opportunity to shit on all the people that he hated over the years in basketball. And Isiah Thomas and former general manager Jerry Krause was at the top of the list. So there's no way that Isiah Thomas is going to believe that he's going to have an opportunity to talk to Michael Jordan in any level or any form, because Michael Jordan is above reproach. Anything that he does, people are just going to sideswipe that and just ignore it. I mean, that's just is what it is. The real fans are always going to keep the players accountable, but not Michael Jordan. That's just ridiculous, and it's a huge double standard in of itself. So I just feel like Michael should just not even mention his name anymore and just move on with his life. I just hope that Isiah can understand that you're not getting a conversation with Michael Jordan ever. And Michael is not going to allow that to happen. And he's never going to allow any access to give Isiah Thomas the opportunity to speak with him. I mean, I would be shocked if it ever happened. But at the end of the day, you know, these two guys are going to forever hate each other. And I do believe that it's going to continue on until their deathbeds. And it's just sad to see. Life is too short, as we saw with Kobe Bryant. That's why I was so grateful and so happy that both him and Shaq were able to talk about it publicly in front of cameras before Kobe Bryant died. So at least they were able to put their differences aside. And it just goes to show that life is just too freaking short. But the point here is that these two guys are never going to speak with one another. And sure, they'll probably act cordial and act friendly if they ever saw each other face to face. But the tension and the hatred is still there. And there's no way you could tell me that they're going to ever sit down and talk to each other. It just is not going to happen. And I think Isiah Thomas just needs to accept that and just keep moving on with his life. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And with that, I'm out. Peace.